As I was discussing in the introduction, through my life, I haven't accepted or known unconditional love very much. Well, I guess unconditional love is no matter what you do, they still love you, right? Yeah, I haven't really had any of that before. So that's more or less a foreign statement to me. Um, as through various points in my life, it kind of seems like um, unconditional to a point, right? So I love you unconditionally. That's usually been full of shit, right? It's always I love you unconditionally as long as I'm getting something from you, right? Then if you stop giving me something, well, I stop unloving you unconditionally. That's been my experience thus far when it comes to unconditional love. As we know, I've lost my parents when I was younger. Now, after meeting my biological family, there's been a few people in my life that's probably been trying to give me unconditional love. But through my past, it's been very difficult for me to accept any kind of love in any form, unconditional or conditional love. But I will say this: the one person that demonstrated unconditional love in all forms would have been my cousin. And people reading this, they might argue the fact of, in their mind, they've given me more unconditional love than anybody else. But the fact of the matter is that Everett showed me love. He showed me love that nobody has since showed me love. And I say that for this. He took something that was dear to my heart and he internalized it. If you can read, if you've been paying attention, you've been reading his snippets or listening to it, depending on how you're consuming this, then but he took my creation and he transformed it into something that was much grander than just Eric Johnson's personal survival book. There's a story and it goes even more on the theory that Everett looked at me as his son that he lost when I was born. We were at one of my properties, or I was at a house. I was renting it at the time, and we were talking about, unconditional love, right? We were actually talking about it, and he was basically stating, you are a part of me, right? I love myself unconditionally, and you are a part of me, so I love you unconditionally. Now, at the time, we were both drunk. So when sober, I highly doubt he would do this. But I asked him, I said, so if I'm a part of you, I was trying to think of the nastiest thing that I could do. So I blew my nose and I said, if I'm a part of you, then my snot is your snot, right? Now, this is really gross. But he said, yeah. And then he grabbed my snot rag and wiped his head with it. And he said, you are a part of me. Now, as gross as this was, it showed me something. That unconditionally, there was no garbage in this world that he would run from my life. Now, that's a deep metaphor, and that's very difficult to quite grasp. But what he was explaining to me, because, mind you, this conversation was over 10 years ago, so I'm probably badgering it a little bit, or not fully able to describe it and give it the importance that it really deserves. But what he was showing me was that we are one. That no matter what, he would support me, right? Because I was him. Now, in our last chapter, it's don't come back until you're Mr. Johnson. And when he says that, that is another indication of his unconditional love, which is really crazy, because then if you think of my other lives of them kicking me out and basically me being on my own is a form of unconditional love, because I've been able to accomplish more alone, which is another chapter, which is solitude equals genius. But since we're on unconditional love, for him to open his arms the way he did, and then for him to contact me before he died, right? So you have to understand the importance of that. He knew where I was this entire time. But again, be a different chapter, solitude equals genius. He allowed me to be alone, right? He didn't want to bother me during my studies, which is another sign of unconditional love. He loved me to the point he wanted to leave me alone, right? But when it was time for him to go, he reached out and he wanted just to say goodbye. For him to be able to leave me alone, for me to give me the support I needed it when I needed it. Because at that point in my life, I had been on my own I met them when I was 22. My mom died when I was 11. Dad died when I was 10. So we're looking 11 years I had been on my own of just pure hell. And then I met them, and Everett gave me the love, the unconditional love that I needed. He supported me in Fuck You Make Money. He didn't support me, rather. He consumed Fuck You Make Money, and Fuck You Make Money became a part of him. So I, in turn, became a part of him. And that's one thing that I didn't see from anyone, and I probably will never see again. Because one, the relationship, I'm old now, so it'd be difficult to find someone my senior, just because of time. But however, that version of unconditional love has allowed me to continue to strive forward. So the unconditional love of a cousin, or as a father figure, or as a best friend, is if you love somebody, there is no condition. They have to become a part of you, because if they don't become a part of you, then you love them conditionally. And don't even use the words, I love you unconditionally. And I know you can sit there and think that you love your kids unconditionally, but do you really? And you can be like, yeah. Well, and you can be like, how could you possibly think that? Well, I got two parents that are alive and I don't love them at all. I don't even know them, right? Those are my biological parents. Obviously, the ones I grew up with are dead. But I don't know my biological parents, so I don't love them. No, I don't. So let's just be careful with the conditional love and the unconditional love, because an unconditional love is a selfless love. An unconditional love is you giving and not receiving. Because Everett gave his heart to me. Everett gave his mind to me. And through that, that's why I'm doing this. And so I could give a part of the unconditional love that Everett gave to me, to you. Through the small snippets that I'm providing. The pure genius of Everett is part of the unconditional love. By me working constantly and writing these books and creating this content, it's my unconditional love to my future self, right? To bring it back to the responsibility of a man, is that I'm consistently trying to better myself because I love myself unconditionally and I love my future self unconditionally. And so in order to truly love someone unconditionally, you have to do things that support, not hinder.